Alrighty. Wow. 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 You know, the thing about Star Wars, I do two movies Star Wars and Marvel. Marvel was created by Stan Lee in the 30s, and this was when the first superhero ever invented was Superman. Then came Batman and Wonder Woman and The Flash and the Justice League. That was all DC. To rival that, there was Marvel, but that started off as like Atomic Comics or something like that, where I went to the boxing gym, the Great Atomic, and that's where I learned to box. So this Atomic Comics was started, and when Stan Lee joined, he was just like a color or a writer. He wanted to always be a writer, but he didn't think he would be. Well, first he wanted a job because his family valued hard work, and then he wanted to be a writer. But then he was in a comic book store, a comic shop, and back then comics weren't cool. They were like for kids and stuff. So, for kids and stuff. So when you go to a party, something, and they ask, "What do you do?" He say, "I work with comics." He was just trying to get around it. He just say, "I'm a writer." "What do you write?" "Short stories." "What kind of short stories?" "Comics." And that's how it ended up like that. But so he was working for this Atomic Comics, or I forget the name. There's a documentary on Stan Lee, and he was working on this comics and writing and blah 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 blah. And then he got moved from like to the main stories because the other writers left. So what he decided was he was gonna make his characters more adult. So before they were like for kids, like Superman and stuff. But he decided he's gonna make them have real issues and society and real themes, right? So if you read the early comics, they are like the pictures are kind of goofy, but the dialogue is pretty serious. The dialogue is pretty serious. It's like a real story that an adult can enjoy. So that's what they made. And then if you look at the clips there's actually clips from the 30s where they're like, oh, the kids are like, the teenagers are like, oh, if you want just a clown story, read Batman. Iron Man is not for that. And it really was, it really is pretty cool stories. In fact, everything we've produced since 2001, 2002, and 2003. That's when the first X-Men, the first Spider-Man, and the first Iron Man were produced. The first ever superhero movies on the big screen other than the old Batmans in the 80s and 70s. So this X-Men, Logan, Iron Man, and Spider-Man, and all did fantastic. 2000, early 2000s, 2001, 2002, 2003. And then that's when it took off. Great reviews, and every single Marvel movie makes billions of dollars. So everything that Marvel has been writing, though, like 90%, 80 to 90%, 90% of the story and the lore follows on what the comics already started. The same characters, the same origin stories, the same families, the same villains, and the same kind of plots and stories. But that was all written in the 30s up until 2000. So for like, or was it 30s? Really that long? 70 years? 70 years. He worked young. So 70 years we crafted all these stories. And when his most iconic character was Spider-Man. So he went home one day, they asked him to create a new character, and he was like, he saw a bug crawling on the wall, and he was like, why don't I make a character mosquito or fly, or what was spider? I made a spider. And then he said, let's give him a teenager, let's give him personal problems, difficulty with girls, can't find money, and all sorts of family issues. And his fucking supervisor said, the boss said, this is the worst story ever. People hate spiders. A teenager can only be a sidekick. And he's got personal problems. Heroes don't have personal problems. But he loved the idea. So he took it and he put it in a side spin-off. just the Amazing Spider-Man in like a comic that was dying. He put it in there as a side character, and people loved that character. It exploded. So that's when Spider-Man took off and became his greatest invention. And ever since then, they always created new characters, new stories, and like I said, everything we've been working on, I'm gonna spoil everything because we spoiled I'm gonna even spoil my works. I'm spoiling everything. We come to the end. So we got 3 more movies. We got Doomsday, Secret Wars, with the whatever else is coming out in terms of the Scarlet Witch and the whatever individual movies we have left. Avengers, we got Secret Wars and Doomsday, and then Fate of Races, mine. Those 3 conclude everything. We'll see what happens in the future, but those 3 conclude everything. There's nothing more to think of. We'll see. It's gonna be a fun time. And so everything that they're doing so far is what he made, whether on purpose or by accident, mix of both, has been his stories. There was a falling off between him and Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby was the penciler and the color, and Stan Lee was the writer and the inventor. So it was like, is it Stan Lee's stories? Is it Jack Kirby's stories when they split up? And I was like, it's Stan Lee because Stan Lee wrote the stories. And everything he wrote is what we've been developing since 2001, 2002, up until now, 2026, 24 years, 25 years. So 25 years. And what does that include? That includes, like, I remember it was Iron Man, who was like a billionaire playboy. This is, I'm now going to talk about what the movies happened. So all of this is in the stories for 70 years. But in the actual movies, we have Robert Downey Jr., who's Iron Man, a billionaire, cocky, who creates all this weaponry and builds himself a suit to save himself when his heart is dying and becomes Iron Man. We got Thor, who's Chris Hemsworth, who's a big, bulky god of thunder, who has an ego and always wants to fight with his fists. And so he gets shunned from the god world and then has to become a man and whatever. We got Spider-Man, who's played by different characters all the time. Teenager, skinny, cunning, charming, Spider-Man. We got Captain America, who was invented to fight the Nazis, and in the films, 3 films, he is fighting Nazis, and he's fighting Hydra all the time, and he's fighting with the super serum soldier, so that's always doing that. We got the Black Panther from Africa to bring the native African resources in. We got the X-Men, which are the mutants, a whole range of X-Men. Hugh Jackman did 20 years of work, 25 years of work Hugh Jackman did. My favorite Marvel actor. Logan. We got Doctor Strange and Wanda and Vision and Hawkeye and Hulk and Captain Marvel. These are like the not so big, not so main stories. The Guardians of the Galaxy and like Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson. And what's left to do is Mr. Sinister, who's a villain, a mutant villain. So they haven't used him in the mutant world. Onslaught, who is in Marvel Rivals, came out. It's a very popular video game. It's like Overwatch, shooting, but with Marvel characters. And Onslaught is so powerful you can't use him in the game, even though they have all the characters. Onslaught is like when you get a triple kill, it says Onslaught, like Rampage, So Onslaught's a phrase instead of the actual character. So he's very powerful. He's going to be in the next 2 films. Doctor Doom is the last one. He's a very crucial character that they've saved till the end. Dr. Doom, Onslaught, Mr. Sinister for the X-Men. And the Fantastic Four was done 20 years ago. Now they remade it last year. And they have a son. So Mr. Fantastic and Invisigirl had a baby in space, and this happens in the remake. And the baby was subject to cosmic rays, and he becomes the most powerful mutant ever. Up until now, Jean Grey, the Dark Phoenix, was the most powerful Class 5 mutant. She could control reality with her mind. But she didn't really have control over that power because it was too powerful for her. Franklin is the same way, except Franklin can now control the son of the Fantastic Four, who was born in cosmic rays, can control universes, can control matter, can control life. He can control everything. Super powerful. And that's why Dr. Doom and Galactus, who was in the Fantastic Four movie, want to capture him and use him for their own personal gains because he is the most powerful being ever. So that's how it's all coming to a conclusion. It's all coming to a conclusion. What happened so far was we had all these character origin stories. All the characters I just listed, they had their origin stories. They had their own individual franchises with their trilogies and their sequels. And they played out an events. And what's very cool is the events that happen in this trilogy with this character and the events that happen in this trilogy with this character, when they finally meet, it's the superposition of what happened to both of them. So when they finally meet, if this guy's missing an eye, in the new combination, he's missing an eye. If his father died in the episode 2, in this new conglomerate, his father's dead. So it all makes sense. It all ties in. Like I said, we're following the comic book stories and the characters. So all these characters that I listed, they have their own movies, they have their own shows. Then they had the Avengers, and they all had their own origin stories. And Avengers is the group. So the only thing missing from the Avengers is the mutants, the X-Men. They have not yet mixed. We had X-Men for 25 years, and we had Avengers for 15 years. Avengers in the old comics mixed with the mutants. They mixed, obviously. But we still have not had them mix yet. That's going to happen in the next 2 movies. The last 2. Which are we had 4 Avengers. We had Avengers, Age of Ultron, Infinity War, and Endgame, which are paired for the Infinity Stones. The Infinity Stones, which are stones that each one has time, space, reality. So each one controls something separate, and if Thanos gets all of them, he can wipe out half the universe with a snap of his fingers. So that was the big reveal that broke records as crazy, most box office of all time. Such a success. Everybody was looking forward to it. Everybody was pleased with it. That's how the Infinity Saga ended. And that's when we had all these characters that I listed come together in the Avengers to fight this Thanos god who bends space and time with acquiring the stones, who wants to end life. That was the Infinity. There's only 2 sagas. There's the Infinity Saga, which was that stuff, and all the character origins. Then there was the Multiverse Saga, which is not too broad, but it's all these parallel universes and time control, time variance. So it goes like there's parallel worlds, parallel universes. It's done very well because the way it's controlled and monitored is very intelligent. So you got all these different times, parallel worlds, and there's a character of that replica on each world, and they're called variants, and there's like infinity amount of them. So variants, when they mix, they have different personalities but the same powers, and they come together from different worlds and villains from different worlds, and that's how they got. You obviously have the cheap shots with that, with like a character dies, but his clone comes in, and that's the real one, and then he dies, and then the new world dies, but the new world lives, and then the new world lives, and the new world lives. So you have infinite lives. You have infinite lives. But it was very well monitored by the Time Variance Authority, who was like this police that had these rods that could stick them in you, and you evaporate and disintegrate from all the worlds. So that was the Time Variance Authority, and they were ruled and patrolled. However, they themselves were all variants, unknowingly ruled by the knower of all, Kang. Now, there's a great comic called Kang the Conqueror, which had 10 or 9 or 10 editions on the Marvel comic reading app. And this Kang the Conqueror was fucking incredible character. He went to the beginning of time to the end of time, and he controlled everything and learned everything, and his one flaw was never love. Never love. If you love, that will be the end of you. And that's what he tried to teach him, his future self, to learn that. So you don't gotta read all 10 editions of Kang the Conqueror, which came out recently, like 2022 or something like that. Read the first one. First one's fantastic. And Loki is where Kang exists in the productions. The TV show Loki, season 1. My favorite TV show of all time. That and Halo. Halo, the last 2 episodes. Loki, episodes 1, 3, Lamentis, and the last episode. The last episode, the best plot twist in history. Season 2 was crap. They killed it off because they didn't want to make season 2 great because they were killing off the character. You know, Jonathan Majors, he was chasing his girlfriend on the street for like 2,000 miles, and they canceled him. So there's no more Kang. They fucked with that. They made Loki season 1 fantastic. Now episodes 2 and 4 and 5 were kind of like just jokes, but episodes 1 with the serious dialogue between Owen Wilson and Loki, episode 3 with the love story between the female Loki and the male Loki, and episode 6 with the big reveal. Season 1 Loki, amazing, those 3 episodes. And then Halo, last 2 episodes of season 1 in Halo. Halo season 2 looked like crap, I didn't watch it, but season 1 of Halo, the last 2 episodes. Cortana, the Covenant. Ooh. And this Loki and the Kang, the conqueror of all worlds, controls time. So we've used everything. All that's left, we were going to make Kang the next Avengers. But they scrapped him. They finished it off in Loki 1 season. He had 1 episode. And he had a whole nother season, but it's like, just acting. But season 1, best. And that leaves us with Doomsday and Secret Wars. Now let me spoil what these are about. I did some fishing around. What stories hasn't Marvel used? What's it called? Like, the only stories left that it hasn't used is Hulk fights the Illuminati, apparently in the comics. A dark period where heroes go into hiding. Can't really do that. Scarlet Witch tries to end the mutants. That can be in my film. Mutants and Avengers face off, either in the last film or in my film. And the Green Goblin fights the Asgardians, but the Asgardians are dead. The Asgardians are finished. They've been a long life. So basically, this mutants and the Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is hopefully getting her own movie. So we're left with mutants mixing with the Avengers, which will happen in the next two films and in my film. There's three left. They're Doomsday, Secret Wars, and Fate of Races. So mutants will mix with the Avengers at some point. Doctor Doom is very powerful. He wants the Fantastic Four's child Franklin. Onslaught and Mr. Sinister are in the comics, so they will be revealed. Franklin, the son of the Fantastic Four. Now, what is Secret Wars about? The last film. What's it about? Secret Wars. What's that about? What's that about? I did some research last year. I'll do it again. I did it. I wrote it in a document. Spider-Man had a TV show in 1997 that finished in 1997. I watched it in Serbia all the time. When I went to Serbia, 9 o'clock, before the porn, this Spider-Man TV show came on, and it was so good. I watch it now on TV. They have it on Disney. Spider-Man 1993, 1994 to 1997. Wow. Primetime TV in 1997. So good. Adults, kids, anyone can watch it. And it has 5 seasons. Now each episode is kind of short. It's like 20 minutes only because there was commercials. Half an hour slot, 20 minutes show. Season 5 was amazing. The first episode of season 5 was the wedding between Mary Jane and Peter Parker. They get married. So you know Peter Parker and Mary Jane are always on off. They get married in season 5. But the wedding is crashed by a villain, a goblin shooting monster, and Spider-Man fights him and has to get the rings to marry Mary Jane. And then Harvey Oswald, the Green Goblin, who ends up fighting in that episode, he's jealous of Peter. He wants to marry Mary Jane. And he's jealous of Peter, so he shows up to the wedding. Now, at first he's congratulating them, but then the mask influences him. The mask influences him. So the mask of the Green Goblin says, "No, you should be jealous, but he's my friend. No, you should attack him." And he becomes a Green Goblin. And he attacks him, and he's supposed to be happy for his friend. That's the first episode of last season, the wedding. There's 13 episodes in the final season. The last 3, there's 3, 9, 10, 11, and then 12 and 13 conclude it. 12 and 13. 9, 10, 11 are called Secret Wars. So if you want to know what the fuck Secret Wars is about, go watch Spider-Man 1997, Season 5, watch The Wedding, and watch episodes 9, 10, 11. They're literally called Secret Wars. Secret Wars, should I spoil it? Yeah, why not? It's about the Beyonder, who's from another dimension, almighty. He's intrigued with the good, and I'm just repeating what I saw on the show. He's intrigued with the good and the evil of Earth. So the most good person he can find is Spider-Man. So he finds this utopian planet where everyone's peaceful, and he brings the evil villains from Earth to chaos that planet. However, the heroes that he brings are heroes we've already seen in all our movies to date. The Lizard, Dr. Otto Octavius, the Green Goblin, Venom, Carnage, and Dr. Doom. We're gonna see Dr. Doom. And the funny thing is, this was in Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home, we had all these villains, remember? And he's like, I gotta send them home to their own planets. And it's all the villains from the old Spider-Man movies since the early 2000s come mixing into Spider-Man No Way Home. So they kind of did that already. I don't know if they're going to change it up. They're going to change it up for sure. But he brings these villains onto this utopian world to cause evil. And he wants to see if the good can win. So he brings Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's allowed to bring like 4 friends. And he brings the Fantastic Four, he brings one of the X-Men, Iron Man, and Captain America. And they go and they fight on this world. And on the world, Doctor Doom becomes so strong that they all have to attack Doctor Doom. And in the end, the controller who made that fight removes everybody off the planet, resets it, and wipes everyone's memory except for Spider-Man's. Now, if you do some more digging around in the comics, it was actually Battle World, how the multiverse ends. The multiverse ends by all these universes and sacred timelines and Kang the Conqueror, which controlled the timelines. The worlds start collapsing, and in order for the survivors and the variants to remain, they gotta fight one another, such as on a planet called Battle World. Battle World, where all these universes start collapsing, and the variants fight it out, and the villains and the heroes, who's gonna survive. And what Franklin does, the child of the Fantastic Four with the almighty powers, is when Doom comes to attack and Mr. Sinister and Onslaught, when they come to fight the Avengers and kill them, Franklin preserves them and sends them and Earth to like a new universe. And my hypothesis was that might be Battle World. When all the universes come colliding, he can control all of that and the variants and the timelines, and kaboom, capiche, multiverse saga done. We had the Infinity Saga with the Infinity Stones, Multiverse Saga with the Battle World, and the Secret Wars. Which leaves one last saga. And that's Fate of Races. How did I come up with Fate of Races? So I watched all the Marvels many times. I watched all the Star Wars. I watched all the Marvels. And I was thinking of a villain. And I was thinking, what's the most scariest villain I can think of? You know, what kind of superpower does he have? What's his backstory? What's his motivation? You can think of all of that. I thought, what about demons like Evangelical, Christ, and Satan? Gods. What now? There's always demons and gods, right? But actual demons, like Satan's. What if we bring that into Marvel? I can't think of anything else. And I posted an interview of Stan Lee in the year 2000 on, what was his name again? The podcast, not the TV host who was like the Tonight Show, but it was like more serious talk. And he was interviewing this comic book writer, Stan Lee, and he said, did you ever think of a villain that you didn't like, that was so bad? And he said there was only one villain he ever thought of, that they wrote the comic, they wrote the story, but he hated the story and they never used it again. He couldn't think of what to do with it. And all they had was a name. And the name they thought was menacing. It was Diablo. I'm not shitting you. There's a clip of this. I posted it on my channel. And you can find the full interview. CNN. It was on CNN. He's like, I found one named Diablo menacing. And then we wrote some kind of crappy story and drew him up. And it was so bad we didn't know what to do with it. That's where I'm taking it. Diablo. Now, 2 features of this Diablo. I call him Ertu. Why do I call him Ertu? My favorite fantasy books, the Dark Elf trilogy. He fights a demon from the astral plane named Ertu. And when he goes into the beast mode, he slays him. But I remember that Ertu, that demon, that reminds me so much of this evil one from Marvel. So I name him Ertu. 2 features. 1, he comes from vibranium. Why? Because we haven't really used Wakanda that much, which is intriguing because it holds the most powerful element in the MCU. You have adamantium, which was used for Wolverine's body and claws, the adamantium stone. That was in 2002. Since then, we discovered vibranium in Wakanda in 2018 or 2017. So this vibranium is the most powerful element. And it's like ore. You can extract it. So when the foreigners go to extract this vibranium from Wakanda, Africa, it becomes tainted, and these demon souls start spawning from the tainted vibranium, the most powerful element. And Black Panther is immune. Black Panther is immune. And the last feature, what are the real demons? What do they fight? What are their abilities? I was thinking of acting, and what's the most intriguing form of combat for superheroes? You got laser vision, you got super strength, you got powerful weapons, hammers, you got guns, you got flight, you got time control, you got mystical powers and auras. And I was thinking, what about looking into your own soul, and you got to combat your own flaws, your own personality, you got to combat. So it was like a reflections. All these demons, they cast a reflection on whoever's fighting them, So it's like you're fighting yourself. All this took me a long time to think of. The demons, the vibranium and the Black Panther, and the reflections. And like you got there's a reflection for everybody, and they all steal the powers from the heroes and send it back to Earth. So he grows with all their powers, and he uses their own weapons against them. So Spider-Man, he's going to use a web against him. Thor, he's going to use super strength against him. Iron Man, he's going to use his own gadgets against him. And that's Fate of Races. The second edition of Fate of Races I thought of was, where do the mutants... Oh, this is spoiling. This is kind of spoiling. There's basically one little extra caveat, which might be after Fate of Races, which might be the future of Marvel. And it involves the mutants. That was Fate of Races. And I have it right here. Fate of Races and Infinity and Multiverse Saga. And the last, I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words for this ultra new edition. I'm not gonna say anything about that. It might be the rebirth, the ultimate continuation. But that's how we're going to conclude. We had from 2002, from 60 years of comics to 25 years of film, character stories, origin stories, all coming together with the Avengers and the Infinity Stones, the Infinity Saga, the multiverse, the Time Variance Authority, Kang, the ruler, and then we have Secret Wars, Doctor Doom, and finally Fate of Races. And I got 5 words. I got 10 points. I got 10 points for the future, which I got no ideas for, but I got 10 points. I got 10 areas for after Fate of Races. But it's a perfect little loop. So, and you can find it all on Disney Plus. All on Disney Plus. Don't you? You can't find the Spider-Verse and the Tom Holland Spider-Man or any of the Spider-Man. You can only find like the first Spider-Man. So all of these Spider-Man are on Sony, which are on Amazon and wherever find Sony, which is why I said Disney should acquire Sony TV. Sony TV is only like, it's pretty affordable as a franchise, and you get Spider-Man because Spider-Man, Sony produced the first X-Men or was it Fox? They acquired Fox. So if Fox produced them, Disney acquired Fox. But I think on some of them you can see it says Sony. It says Sony as well. Sony was the production entity for these first Iron Man, X-Men, and Spider-Man. So maybe that's why you can't yet find them on Disney Plus. So that would conclude the MCU, all of Stan Lee. Adding Fate of Races is my little bump to it, and then going forward with whatever we can do, whatever we got. So, and ended it with Secret Wars, Doom, Kang the Conqueror, the Multiverse Saga, Battle World, Fate of Races, and that sums up beautifully. We might add some more like Scarlet Witch, some more mutants. Mutants, we got that. We got so much mutants. Whatever we have left to add, I think Black Panther 3. More Spider-Man is coming out, so a little more here and there. Doctor Strange might come out with another one. Scarlet Witch. A little more here and there, and then sum it up with Avengers. That's all it is. That's all it is. And that's the MCU. Other than that, I got Star Wars, but what's beautiful about Star Wars is it's a movie. It wasn't a comic book, it wasn't a story, it wasn't literature, it was a movie. So everything in Star Wars ever existed is already on film. So when I'm thinking of stories for the future, we already got so much content, you just push out more content. So I tried to add some very dynamic elements that can be incorporated, but it was just like a couple of paragraphs. So Star Wars, it's about the cinema. It's about the cinema, Star Wars. MCU is about stories. Yep. Marvel, Star Wars. Stay classy.